Snow fell relentlessly over Bastogne. The winter of 1944 had gripped the Ardennes with a merciless hand. German forces advanced armored columns, crunching through icy roads, confident in their might. Yet in the forests and open clearings, a new terror awaited them. The roar of America's 90mm anti-air guns shattered the frozen silence. Shells screamed through the sky, striking with precision that defied expectation. The German soldiers froze eyes wide behind steel helmets. Tanks shuddered as armor buckled under impact smoke and debris erupting in the bitter cold. Whispers spread among infantry. They fire from nowhere, unstoppable, impossible. Ordinary men bracing against snow and wind operated weapons that turned the battlefield into a nightmare of steel and fire. Explosions tore through the icy landscape, snowflakes dancing in the smoke. The smell of cordite mingled with frost. German officers shouted orders, but the rhythm of artillery, the precision of the 90mm guns, and the relentless advance of American infantry left them reeling. Shells tore tracks from tanks, demolished bunkers, and cut down anyone caught in the open. The impossible was happening right before their eyes. Rumors began almost immediately. Among both sides, tales of uncanny accuracy of shots that seemed guided by fate spread like wildfire. Soldiers spoke in whispers of gunners who never missed, of targets falling even when visibility was poor, of German confidence evaporating under a hail of steel. Fact and legend collided in the chaos of the Ardennes, creating a tableau both terrifying and mesmerizing. By midday, the landscape was transformed. Tanks immobilized bunkers, shattered snow stained with smoke and soot. The American 90mm anti-air guns had turned ordinary defense into legend, and ordinary men into agents of awe and terror. And yet the battle was far from over. Beyond the blasts, beyond the smoke and debris, strategy, courage, and fear continued to collide in ways that would shape history forever. The Ardennes forest stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of frost-covered trees and frozen underbrush. December 1944. The bitter winter gripped both men and machines alike, snow layering every ridge and valley. German forces advanced with calculated aggression, confident in their armor and artillery, yet unaware of the precise devastation that awaited them. American defenders had prepared meticulously. 90 anti-air guns were positioned strategically across choke points, observation posts, monitoring every approach, infantry squads ready to coordinate fire. The terrain itself dictated tactics. Narrow roads, dense woods, and frozen streams funneled armored columns into predictable paths. Every movement by the enemy could be exploited. Every ridge became a vantage point. Winter compounded the challenge. Freezing winds cut through uniforms, fingers stiffened, engines groaned under snow-laden tracks. Yet determination burned brighter than the cold. Soldiers moved cautiously, relying on both training and instinct. Intelligence reports warned of superior German numbers, yet the combination of terrain familiarity and powerful anti-aircraft guns offered a chance to level the battlefield. Observation posts relayed vital information. Gunners adjusted angles, calculated trajectories, and prepared for enemy armor. Marines and infantry braced behind cover, watching armored columns inch forward under a storm of shell fire. Artillery fire softened targets, yet the 90mm guns delivered precision that turned ordinary resistance into extraordinary impact. Every shell struck a rhythm of fear and awe across the German lines. The human element was never absent. Soldiers endured exhaustion, cold, and terror simultaneously. Diaries describe frozen breaths, hearts pounding, eyes scanning for movement. Officers coordinated the placement of guns and the timing of volleys, ensuring maximum effect while minimizing exposure. In one journal, a private noted, "The enemy moves with confidence, but we are ready. The cold, the snow, the roar of our guns, it all feels inevitable." Supply lines were vital. Ammunition had to be ferried across snow-blocked roads, gun crews rotated to maintain pressure, and every shot had to count. Engineers reinforced positions, cleared lines of sight, and prepared fallback points. The system was not merely about firepower, but about orchestration, man-machine, and terrain, working in harmony to channel the enemy into kill zones. Even civilian populations felt the tension. Small villages lay in the path of advancing columns. Windows-shuttered residents huddled, listening to distant artillery, anticipating the chaos to come. The landscape was alive with both danger and anticipation. Each frozen ridge, each cratered road, each snow-laden field became part of the stage on which the battle would unfold. By mid-morning, the stage was set. German tanks and infantry approached with confidence, unaware that every ridge, every bend, and every approach had been accounted for. 90mm anti-air guns stood ready, a silent but potent threat. The combination of calculated preparation, environmental advantage, and technological precision created the conditions for a battle where strategy could outweigh brute force. And yet, beyond the statistics and placements, human courage remained central. Men faced the bitter cold, the roar of armor, and the anticipation of death. The Ardennes was a crucible of both ingenuity and fear. Every step forward, every calculated adjustment of fire, every breath in the winter air carried the weight of survival and the potential to turn the tide. The battle was about to erupt, and with it, the legend of America's 90mm anti-air guns would take shape. The scale of the engagement was staggering. American forces defending Bastogne numbered roughly 19,000, facing a German offensive of over 30,000 soldiers, including armored divisions and mechanized infantry. The city's strategic position, a vital crossroads in the Ardennes, made it an essential target for Hitler's Operation Wacht am Rhein. Every calculation, every deployment, every gun placement could determine the outcome. The 90mm anti-air guns, designed initially for high-altitude threats, had been repurposed with deadly efficiency. Each weapon capable of piercing the armor of even the heaviest tanks was operated by crews of 4 to 6 men. Manuals and training emphasized rapid loading, precise targeting, and coordinated fire. Yet the battlefield conditions, frozen ground, snow, and low visibility, tested both man and machine to their limits. Diary entries reveal Marines counting seconds, meticulously adjusting elevation and azimuth as tanks crept forward, shell after shell, finding its mark. After-action reports documented the effectiveness. In a single morning, several American gun crews destroyed multiple German armored vehicles, halting the advance at key choke points. German casualty reports confirm losses consistent with artillery logs, citing sudden destruction of tanks without apparent cause, morale, shaken lines faltering under relentless and precise fire. Photographs, rare but vivid, capture the moment of impact, tanks engulfed in smoke and debris, gunners focused behind their 90mm mounts, snow kicked up by explosions. Coordination magnified the gun's impact. Infantry suppressed machine gun nests, while artillery units prepared overlapping fields of fire. Observation posts provided continuous updates. Radio communication relayed adjustments with precision. One report notes, target locked at 300 meters elevation, adjusted fire at will. A testament to discipline under extreme stress. Logistics were crucial. Shells had to be transported across icy roads, crews rotated to maintain operational effectiveness, and fuel and food supplies kept soldiers alive and alert. Engineers reinforced gun emplacements, cleared lines of sight, and repaired tracks under fire. The integration of manpower, firepower, and terrain ensured maximum effectiveness against a numerically superior enemy. Eyewitness accounts highlight the human dimension. One Marine wrote, "We saw the Tigers' stop tracks ripped apart, smoke and flame rising. It was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. We knew our training mattered. Every shell counted." German soldiers reported the sudden destruction with disbelief, often attributing it to luck, skill, or divine intervention. The human stories merged seamlessly with hard data, forming a comprehensive record of both strategy and chaos. Environmental factors further shaped outcomes. Dense forests funneled German tanks into predictable approaches, snow-muffled movement but highlighted tracks for observers, and the winter chill slowed reaction times. Maps and reconnaissance notes show that gun emplacements were chosen not only for line of sight, but also for terrain advantage, turning the Ardennes' natural features into force multipliers. In sum, the fact layer reveals a multi-dimensional battle. Thousands of soldiers in freezing conditions, armored columns advancing with confidence. Precise deployment of 90mm anti-air guns, coordination of infantry and artillery, and the strategic use of terrain. Every shell, every log, every photograph corroborates the extraordinary effectiveness of these weapons and the men operating them. History is preserved in numbers reports and the vivid accounts of those who survived the onslaught. Whispers traveled swiftly through the snow-laden trenches of Bastogne. Soldiers spoke of the iron devils that emerged from nowhere, their 90mm guns firing with uncanny precision. Accounts circulated of shells striking tanks before crews could even react, of enemy vehicles immobilized as if by fate itself. A private wrote in his diary, "It was as if the guns had eyes. They knew where to strike before we even aimed." Stories grew with each retelling. Marines claimed that crews seemed to appear in multiple positions at once, firing shells and vanishing into the smoke and snow. German soldiers, shaken and bewildered, described the guns as instruments of supernatural judgment, metal beasts with unerring aim, bringing terror where none was expected. Fact and legend intertwined on the frozen battlefield, blurring lines between reality and myth. Even in the chaos, folklore shaped morale. American soldiers whispered about phantom gunners, men who could see through smoke and shadow whose shots never missed. The stories inspired courage among the defenders, reinforcing belief in their own training and ingenuity. Meanwhile, German troops hesitated, unsure if they faced mere soldiers or agents of some inexplicable power. Fear became a weapon as effective as the shells themselves. The landscape itself lent credence to the tales. Snow-covered ridges, dense forests, and frozen craters distorted sightlines, creating illusions of movement. Smoke from fired shells swirled unnaturally, turning ordinary soldiers into ghostly figures and amplifying the mystique of the 90mm guns. One officer later noted, "We could not tell if the fire came from one gun or 10. It was everywhere, and yet invisible until it struck." These stories survived long after the battle. Letters, memoirs, and oral histories preserved them, amplifying the impact of factual reports. Veterans recounted phantom shells tanks falling impossibly fast. And gunners who seemed untouchable, the legend of Bastogne's anti-air guns, became a narrative of awe-terror and respect, cementing the weapon's reputation far beyond its technical specifications. Even civilians caught in the outskirts heard the stories. Whispers of American guns that struck with supernatural precision filtered through villages, lending an almost mythical aura to the events. The boundary between history and folklore blurred, creating a layered memory of Bastogne where fear, heroism, and strategy converged. By the end of the campaign, the folklore was inseparable from fact. Soldiers and historians alike referred to the 90mm guns as decisive and almost preternatural. In letters and diaries, one could find phrases like "the guns moved with the minds of men unseen," or "armor fell before our eyes as if by destiny." The battle had transformed into legend, even before the last shell had cooled in the snow. The folklore layer demonstrates that war is as much about perception as firepower. The combination of precise artillery, human courage, and the mystique of sudden destruction created a story that endured. Bastogne became not just a battlefield, but a theater where ordinary soldiers were immortalized as agents of both fact and myth. The echo of 90mm shells would resonate in memory, bridging the line between reality and legend for decades to come. The true power of the 90mm anti-air guns lay not only in their firepower, but in the meticulous system that orchestrated every shot. Gun crews were paired with infantry squads, observation posts, and artillery units, each element acting in concert. Every position was calculated, every line of fire mapped, every approach to the choke points considered. The system turned a small number of men and weapons into an almost unstoppable force. Observation posts perched on ridges relayed critical information. Spotters called out enemy movements, range and speed. Gunners adjusted elevation and azimuth with precision, coordinating volleys to intercept tanks and mechanized infantry. Timing was everything. Each shell had to strike at the exact moment to halt momentum, to freeze the enemy's advance. The rhythm of fire, observe, adjust, repeat became second nature. Logistics underpinned the system. Shells were ferried across icy roads, and snow-covered terrain crews rotated to maintain operational readiness, and positions were reinforced against counterattacks. Engineers cleared lines of sight, built protective embankments, and ensured that gun emplacements were both secure and flexible. Without this intricate support, the gun's devastating effect would have been impossible. Terrain was exploited as part of the system. The dense Ardennes forest funneled enemy tanks into predictable paths. Frozen rivers and craters slowed advances, and elevated ridges provided perfect firing positions. Every natural feature became a force multiplier, enhancing accuracy and increasing the psychological impact on German forces. The landscape itself was a partner in the orchestration of firepower. Coordination extended to infantry and artillery. Riflemen suppressed machine gun nests while artillery softened targets ahead of the 90mm guns. Communication was constant. Hand signals, runners, and radios ensured adjustments could be made in real time. A misstep in timing could mean a lost opportunity, yet discipline and practice ensured near-perfect execution under pressure. Psychological effect was integrated into the system. The sudden, precise strikes of the 90mm guns unnerved enemy troops. Tanks halted unexpectedly. Infantry hesitated, and confusion rippled through German lines. The perception of omnipresent fire reinforced the physical impact of the guns. Small crews inflicted outsized effects, turning fear into an operational advantage. By the afternoon of the first engagement, the system had proven devastatingly effective. German armored advances slowed, morale fractured, and defensive cohesion broke in several sectors. The combination of technology coordination, terrain mastery, and human skill created a battlefield where a handful of well-positioned operators could reshape the flow of war. The orchestration of men, machines, and environment was both beautiful and terrifying. Every shell fired, every tank immobilized, every defensive position destroyed was the result of a perfectly tuned system. The frozen Ardennes became a theater of precision, where strategy and execution amplified the power of individual guns into decisive influence. Ordinary soldiers became instruments of extraordinary effect. The battle's outcome hinged on the elegance and efficiency of this carefully constructed system. The morning broke over Bastogne with a tense stillness. Snow-covered ridges and frozen roads stretched under a gray sky, seemingly calm, yet charged with impending violence. Then, with a deafening roar, the 90mm anti-air guns came alive. Shells screamed through the air, striking German tanks and armored vehicles with unerring precision. The ground shuddered beneath each impact, sending snow ice and fragments of steel flying. German commanders shouted orders, but their advance faltered. Armored columns stalled as tanks shuttered tracks, shredded turrets twisted. Infantry hesitated behind snowbanks, unsure if they could proceed. Every salvo from the American guns changed the rhythm of battle, halting what had seemed unstoppable. Soldiers on both sides felt the weight of history in each breath, each blast. Individual acts of heroism punctuated the chaos. A young gunner adjusted elevation hands, trembling from cold and adrenaline, and fired again. A shell struck a Panther tank dead center, the explosion sending debris into the winter sky. A sergeant coordinated multiple gun crews, shouting orders, timing volleys, directing infantry to cover exposed flanks. Every movement precise, every decision critical. Smoke and debris spiraled, obscuring vision. Shells whistled overhead, snow kicked up by explosions, the acrid scent of cordite and burning armor filling the air. Marines moved like shadows among the chaos, advancing, firing, retreating in a rhythm that was terrifyingly effective. The battlefield itself seemed alive, responding to the orchestration of fire and motion. The psychological impact was immediate. German crews abandoned vehicles, officers shouted futile commands, and morale cracked under the relentless barrage. Soldiers whispered of guns that seemed everywhere at once, of precision that defied comprehension. Fear became as potent as the shells themselves, turning strategy into instinctive survival. By midday, the tide had irrevocably shifted. Tanks immobilized, bunkers reduced to rubble, defensive lines broken. The 90mm guns had demonstrated their lethal efficiency, their power magnified by human ingenuity and terrain mastery. Each shell fired had changed the course of the battle, reshaping the Ardennes into a theater of both destruction and awe. Amid the chaos, human courage shone through. Marines pressed forward, covering wounded comrades, adjusting aim under fire, and maintaining the rhythm of battle. The clash of steel, snow, and fire created a tableau of heroism and horror. A symphony of destruction orchestrated by ordinary men wielding extraordinary weapons. The climax of Bastogne was not only in the devastation wrought, but in the resilience, precision, and unyielding determination of those who stood behind the guns. As the smoke lifted over the snow-covered ridges of Bastogne, the battlefield lay transformed. Craters scarred the frozen ground, tanks lay twisted and shattered, and anti-air guns still stood silent, yet triumphant. The roar of battle faded, replaced by an eerie quiet punctuated only by the distant moans of the wounded and the occasional crackle of lingering fires. Casualty reports painted a sobering picture. Dozens of German tanks and armored vehicles were destroyed or disabled, halting their advance and fracturing their offensive cohesion. American losses were significant, yet the strategic advantage gained through the precise deployment of 90mm guns had turned the tide. Soldiers, exhausted and frozen, moved cautiously among the wreckage, checking positions and aiding the injured. Every step revealed both the price of survival and the magnitude of what had been accomplished. Personal accounts underscored the human dimension. A private wrote, "We walked among the debris, snow crunching beneath our boots. Smoke still hung in the air, the smell of cordite lingering. Each destroyed tank, each fallen enemy reminded us of the stakes we had survived." German survivors recounted in diaries the terrifying precision of the American artillery, often describing moments where their armor was incapacitated almost before they realized it. The psychological impact was as profound as the physical destruction. Supply lines and logistics were immediately assessed. Ammunition stocks were depleted, gun crews had rotated tirelessly, and engineers reinforced positions and cleared debris to prepare for further engagements. The coordination that had made the 90mm guns so effective was evaluated, refined, and documented for future operations. Every success came at a cost, yet the system had proven its deadly efficiency. Strategically, the results were undeniable. Bastogne remained in American hands, its crossroads secured its defense, a testament to planning, courage, and innovation. German morale had been shaken. Units scattered, their confidence eroded by the unexpected effectiveness of the guns. The Ardennes scouting campaign would carry the echoes of this battle for months, influencing tactical decisions and soldier behavior far beyond Bastogne itself. Even the landscape seemed to bear witness. Blackened craters, twisted wreckage, and smoke-stained snow held the memory of the clash. The forest and ridges that had funneled enemy armor into kill zones now stood as silent sentinels to human ingenuity and sacrifice. The echo of the 90mm guns lingered, a soundless reminder of how ordinary men and well-coordinated systems could alter the course of a battle. In the aftermath, soldiers reflected on both horror and triumph. Letters, diaries, and post-battle reports preserved the extraordinary events. The battlefield had become a theater of precision and courage, where training, strategy, and determination met in a crucible of destruction. Bastogne had endured its defenders victorious, yet scarred by the violence and the unforgettable intensity of the conflict. The 90mm guns had proven more than a weapon. They had become symbols of resilience, ingenuity, and the terrifying efficiency of human skill under fire. As the snow settled and the sun broke through the clouds, the echoes of battle remained etched in memory. A reminder that in war, courage, strategy, and precision could tip the balance even against overwhelming odds. The ridges of Bastogne lay silent once more. Smoke drifted from twisted tanks and shattered emplacements, curling into the gray winter sky. The roar of 90mm anti-air guns had faded, yet their echoes remained embedded in the snow, the scorched earth, and the memory of every soldier who had survived. Survivors walked cautiously across the scarred landscape, faces streaked with soot and frost, eyes washed with the weight of what had occurred. Whispers of shells that struck with uncanny precision, of gunners who seemed to appear and disappear like phantoms spread among the troops. Fact and legend intertwined, leaving an indelible imprint on both history and imagination. Historians and veterans alike pondered the moments that defied expectation. Tanks felled before they could advance, infantry frozen by fear, volleys of shells arriving with surgical precision. Was it skill, luck, or something more? Something almost mythical. The boundary between reality and legend blurred in the winter haze. The Ardennes itself seemed to remember. Blackened craters, smoke-stained snow, and shattered trees preserving the echo of each shot. Some soldiers later recounted hearing the distant whistle of shells long after the battle, a haunting reminder of the day when ordinary men and extraordinary coordination reshaped the battlefield. And yet one question lingered. How many stories of courage, precision, and unexpected victory remained untold? How many battles hidden in snow and smoke would history never fully recount? The echoes of Bastogne dared those who listened to imagine, to wonder, and to remember. You have just witnessed another chapter in the hidden chronicles of World War II. The story of strategy, courage, and technological ingenuity that turned the tide in Bastogne. If you want to continue exploring the untold acts of bravery, the moments that defined battles, and the legends born amidst chaos, subscribe and follow. The echoes of war are never truly gone. The snow settles. The guns are silent. But memory endures. The precision, the courage, and the terrifying efficiency of February 1944 remain etched in Bastogne's frozen ridges, waiting always, waiting for the next telling.